thin skin held up longer than I was falling to.
Welcome to Center Stage, the documentary podcast. Each week, our group of intrepid researchers and music archivists dig through the record crates of the world, looking for that one artist to take center stage. Using a patent-pending algorithm and spirited debate, we pick one artist. Once that is settled, we invite that artist into Thunderlove Studio to chat with your hosts Keith R. Higgins and Jeff Calhoun. When we're lucky, they say yes. Our mission with Center Stage is simple: to make sure the recorded work of artists remains, or in some cases lands on, the cultural radar. We invite you to sit back and relax. Thank you for joining us.
You and me driving away from Sandusky. We'll trace the dotted line, crossing our hearts and hope you'll sign. But one by one, our friends leave us behind. But don't let it get you down. We've got another town. I know this'll turn around, round, round, round. Me and you, look at the mess we got into. We're dead last in this race. I can't find the words to state my case.
This week, we welcome multi-hyphenate Dave Paulson into Thunderlove Studio to talk about Sandusky, the album he wrote as a tribute to the Chris Farley movie Tommy Boy. It evolved into a career-spanning conversation with Dave, which included music journalism, major label record deals, and the Country Music Hall of Fame. Here's our conversation with Dave Paulson.
Dave Paulson, you might know him from the Tennessean or USA Today or the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum. And let's get into some of those stories too. But I specifically want to talk about, because I went to the trouble, Dave, of rewatching Tommy Boy for this.
Wow.
I'm up to speed, man. We got to talk about Sandusky, Ohio.
Absolutely. It just had its 30th anniversary. I'm going to turn this cam off so I can put the phone down, if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah, feel free.
Sure.
Cool. Appreciate it. But yeah, it just had its 30th anniversary. I saw that pop up and was like, oh yeah, that tracks. How did Tommy Boy hold up for you? I don't know how long it had been since you'd seen it.
Well, I was watching it specifically trying to connect it to your album. So let's tee this up for the uninitiated, right?
Yes.
Mr. Paulson, tell us how you came about it. How did you approach this? Because I come at it from, here's this fully formed, full-length album that if you didn't know what the topic was, you would think this is a power pop masterpiece. It's what a fantastic collection of songs you have written. And then you find out that it's the entire album is about the movie Tommy Boy from 1990. Where, how, why, how, what? Give us some background, Dave.
Absolutely. I mean, your response is partly why, but the idea was I didn't want to keep writing autobiographical songs at the time. And I was building up this backlog of songs that melodically, musically at least, were taking huge swings, I feel like. Not in terms of like how complex they are or anything like that, but just emotionally. It sounds like there are stakes with these melodic songs. And in my personal life, I just thankfully, didn't have much to set that to. I was like, all these songs are so big, and lyrically, I'd much rather keep things small. So it was kind of a conundrum. I was also kind of trying to think, I've realized more and more over the years that like attachment to an artist, like having some sort of entryway into who they are as a person, as much as we want to believe that the song itself, just hearing a song blind without knowing when it's from, where it's from, or whatever. We want to believe that that'll be powerful enough. People need something to latch on to, just somewhere to like be their center. So I was thinking, well, here's a reference point for people. I don't want to, and if you know the movie Tommy Boy, yeah, sure. Let's hear some songs about it. I guess it made things much more inviting and less intimidating, both for me and hopefully for the listener. But those were the main things. And so I knew I wanted to adapt something, and I didn't want it to be something too weighty. So I thought I struck upon the idea of, what if I took something that didn't seem super emotionally heavy and then gave it that. And that was kind of the idea. It probably wouldn't have happened without, like, say, Hamilton. I'm not saying that my album sounds like Hamilton, but that was the first example to me of, like, this is a totally left field thing that gets everyone's attention that also strangely works. So I think that was kind of an inspiration too. But it was mainly a marketing strategy, but also gave me a chance to finally put some words to these songs and get them out there.
I believe that I could make a master's thesis out of this record.
Go for it. Thank you for your kind words on the album.
So goodness, if you don't know the movie Tommy Boy, of course Chris Farley and David Spade, it's kind of a buddy comedy where Chris Farley plays Tommy Callahan Jr. As I worked through the songs and tried to connect, okay, so Sandusky is, and I discovered this album, I should say, while living in Cleveland, Ohio,
which is so great. This is the first, out of state listeners was a huge thing for me. So anyway, I appreciate your listening.
Keith, I know that you grew up in and around Dayton, Ohio.
I did.
Did you ever make it up to Sandusky and experience the roller coasters and the whole city that was?
I never experienced the wonder that is Sandusky.
Cedar Point, I guess is what they call the amusement park there. It's like a Six Flags over Atlanta type of thing, right?
Yeah.
The album has so much of that, and we've talked to a couple of artists recently who talk about how a city or a place becomes a character. So interesting to watch this movie, which, I think most people think of it and they think fat guy in a little coat, right? Yep. They think of the big, like, physical comedy of Chris Farley. But you come out swinging, and you have songs from both Tommy's perspective and the David Spade character, which was Richard Hayden. You've got a song from his perspective too, where he's kind of looking at the Tommy character through a little bit slanted eyes, and it's not as jokey the way that you write it. Was that something you kind of set out to do? Like, I'm going to elevate this goofball comedy. Yeah.
I mean, for sure. And maybe not to make better, but just sort of to illuminate some of the emotion in it, and kind of just like a test for myself too. Just like, can you take this? Can you take this source material and turn it into something else? Very unlikely source material. So that was a huge part of the inspiration. And yeah, there are a couple of perspectives. I decided to just do Richard and Tommy. And I think, like, that song you're talking about is really the only one that's totally from Richard's perspective. And there's other ones where it's the two of them. But I could have had, like, I steered clear of, like, I didn't give Rob Lowe a song, for example. I could have, if we really, that is the beauty of this though, is it's a 9-song album. There's plenty to expand on. We could fill up some gaps and have an act 1 and act 2, something like that. But I haven't gotten that far. It's only been 7 years. That hasn't happened. But yeah, it was very much, I was very excited by the idea, and I liked that I could tell other people about it, and they were also excited and interested, even as I was working on it. Like, it just seemed like an opportunity for everyone to get on board and say, yeah, we get what this is about. Cool. Versus like another guy just being like, oh man, I had a hard couple of years, and this is my heart and soul pulled out. And nothing wrong with that. All of my favorite albums are that, but it was nice for a change to not have something heavy and just be like, hey, we're making the Tommy Boy record, but also we're going to surprise you with it not being a big jokey thing, or hopefully not even too much of a musical thing. I didn't really want it to be super musically.
It's funny you say that, because when Jeff sent it to me, he didn't tell me that it was associated with Tommy Boy at all. And my first run through listening to it, I was like, this sounds like it could be a musical.
Well, I probably shouldn't say it's not. Definitely has. I agree. It definitely has musical flourishes. I could have gone much further. You and I both know we could have, but so I try to keep it light. But yeah,
So, Sandusky is the opening track. It kind of sets the scene.
Gentlemen, raise your glass to long nights I can't recall. I finally cleared a path with good friends to break my fall. They thought I was good for nothing, said hurry up but you'll be late for school again. But I have a brand new start. I'm gonna play my part in sweet Sandusky. I've never had a plan.
To my ear, I think this is one of the most successful power pop records. But is that something that musically you were going for? Is power pop even a part of your vernacular?
Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. And power pop's part of it. And I think that was another musically too, like on top of wanting it to be an easy access point for listeners, conceptually. It was also an opportunity for me to finally do like something kind of classic. And I mean that in the sense of, it's hard to use these words without sounding full of yourself, but like classic and timeless in terms of, I feel like most of the things on that record, there's very few flourishes where you say, oh, that's clearly could not have been made. That had to be made recently. Like it could have been, the 90s or the 2000, sort of a timeless feel. I did notice like a few people that reviewed it or wrote about it, talked about it, and sounded like a very 90s record, which I think they're right on. But since I came up in that era and I love that production, especially the later half of the 90s where things got really dry and in your face and just plain, unadorned, good amount of compression, like that just sounds normal to me. So what sounds like 90s to a lot of other people, to me, is just like, yeah, that's standard. It's just, it's dry instruments, dry vocals right in your face, as loud as you need them to be, kind of thing. But yeah, it was an opportunity for me to be like, let's really dive into like 60s stuff and 70s stuff and the melodic thing. So yeah.
I love that the more I invest in this, the more I get out of it. So I went back and rewatched the film. And like I said, I think most everybody has probably a happy memory or two from the movie. It's got some very memorable jokes. Yeah. But as I listened to the album and got to My Old Man, I remembered, oh, that's right. The Tommy Sr. plays a pivotal role in this movie and setting the whole story up. And as I watched the wedding scene and then listened to the song, I was like, the parallels are much stronger than I remembered. I mean, this is very, very closely knit together, taking you through really the whole film, the whole story of this city.
Well, thanks.
I don't know if there's a question in there.
It's very nice, whatever it is, and I appreciate it. Yeah, I think it, to be honest, I think it starts stronger than it ends, both conceptually and with the tracks. It's front loaded like anything else. And I kind of wrote it in order, except I want to say "My Old Man" was actually the first song that I put lyrics to.
Really?
That was the first that I framed it all up with. I don't know why I necessarily started with that, but it turned out so well, and I felt so encouraged by it. I was like, okay, yeah, we can do this. But that was the tone I wanted to set first, like right away, was like, because other tracks have a beat to them and are a little more fun. That one is just a piano ballad about your dead dad. So it's just a different thing. So yeah. But thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think as it goes on, hopefully it holds together just as well. But it certainly starts strong.
Storm rolled away, my old man's wedding day, smiling straight in my tie, was the last day of his life. As the band began to play, I was floating away with his heart's final pound. Felt my 2 feet on the ground, now I'm lost again. Sandusky called to me to come back home. Can't shake the only fate I've ever known. Joy and pride working side by side. Now I'm the only one. Now I need to be alone.
Now, how many times would you say you watched Tommy Boy to get your version of the stories out and to get your lyrics together in a way that you were happy with?
Specifically for this album, once or maybe twice.
No.
Yeah, for sure. I got, and then yeah, but I'd seen it a bunch as a kid, and I had a script. I found a script online.
Okay.
So I would go through that. So I wasn't watching the movie as much as I was going through the script and just sort of conceptualizing different things. Okay. But yeah, I didn't spend a ton of time trying to like squeeze in Easter eggs and stuff. Like I feel like a lot of the references to things just sort of happened as I was trying to write stuff, and even things that like aren't even explicitly spelled out in the movie. Like I had to figure out what lake he was on because I'm like Keith. I hadn't grown up there or spent any time, and I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure it's Lake Erie. I'm not sure they thought about this, but that's the proper noun I'm going to put in here and stuff. But I didn't try too hard to like load it with that. I just really used the plot as a framework and thought about the scenes and what songs would go well with it. So and a lot of the songs were super old. Like it was a clearinghouse of just like, I can finally do something with this.
You're blowing my mind a little bit. Have you actually visited Sandusky, Ohio, Dave?
No, never have.
Never
way. Hey, you know who else? I'll tell you who else hasn't though. The people who made that movie.
No way.
It's all in Toronto.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, but but I have been talking to some folks up there, and I'm not sure where things are, but hopefully this summer there's going to be a 30th anniversary commemorative like Tommy Boy Fest that some local fans are putting on up there. And we're in talks to see if I can go up there and do something, So I would love to make that happen. Yeah.
That's great.
Amazing. What a great little town. So yeah, about an hour west of Cleveland, about an hour and a half north of Dayton.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
That's funny too, because Bonnie Turner and Terry Turner are the folks that wrote the script.
Right.
The movie itself does kind of feel like a love letter to Sandusky, Ohio, but you're kind of telling me that they just picked that as a random, like this city represents the Midwest in general.
I could not tell. I think maybe that was the right idea. I couldn't tell if the screenwriters didn't have roots there. They might have, but in terms of the stars and the director, I know they didn't shoot a single thing there. And most of it was in Toronto, and most of it, I believe, was in Toronto, like on breaks from Saturday Night Live. They would go back and forth.
Oh, wow.
I did connect after this came out with the director, Peter Siegel, and confirmed that they had not visited there. But maybe a few of them will be going there this summer as well. But
what was that like? What was connecting with the director like? What was that? What was that conversation like?
It was good. Well, it was all internet social media. So we're really just talking about exchanging comments and stuff, and people are tagging people saying, "Hey, check this out." I didn't go around to anybody involved in that movie and say, "Hey, I did this." Partially out of I didn't want to be too self-promoting, and also partially I didn't want anyone involved to say, "Hey, what are you doing? And maybe you should stop doing that." I just got a little paranoid, even though there's nothing. I mean, and I also didn't call it Tommy Boy the album. I am sure that I didn't do anything out of line, and it would have been recognized by parody. But I also just didn't want to let anybody know before I got it done that I was doing it. But he was very nice. We follow each other on socials, and he enjoyed it. That was nice to hear. People kept tagging David Spade and trying to get him to notice it. I'm like, guys, leave him alone. If he wants to check it out, he will. In my Tennessean gig, as you mentioned, I was an entertainment reporter at the paper for about 15 years. And I got to interview Rob Lowe after it came out. And I was like, Rob, I wouldn't, and it was at the end of the interview when I said, I normally would not talk about me, but if people find out I interviewed you and I didn't bring this up, I will have hell to pay. And he loved the idea. He was very tickled by it and all that.
Great.
So he was saying how it was a testament to how that movie lives on, how he keeps hearing about that movie and stuff. So that was nice too. So there's been a handful of folks actually, well, I guess two people involved with it that have said really nice things. So it was cool.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So outside of, and by the way, you've alluded a couple of times to the fact that you might be doing something more with it. Are you making more Dave Paulson music?
I have a bunch of stuff. And I was kind of joking. I mean, I do love that you could always revisit this project and fill it out if you wanted to. Maybe I'll do that one day. I'm still writing stuff. I don't have like a big project I'm planning to do right now, but it will come. I have the songs. Again, I have a familiar problem where I need the lyrics again. After this came out, everyone said, okay, Black Sheep now, or do this movie or do this movie. And I didn't want to just become the movie guy. I really wanted this to be just a standalone art project that people could check out. I never played any of it live or did anything like that. I made a thing, check it out. But I could always go back to it. I just didn't want it to become my whole angle. So I will find something to write about or adapt. But I have a bunch of piano songs that are still very much in the vein of Sandusky. And I think whatever I come out with next will still sound very much like that. But it's been 7 years and I haven't put anything out. So we'll see when that is.
If listeners of the show want to go to Bandcamp, davepaulson.bandcamp.com, there's a little video that's kind of like a super cut of some Tommy Boy scenes. I imagine that the opportunity could be there for you to have you perform the album. It's kind of like a Pink Floyd and the Wizard of Oz type of vibe, right? Sync things up.
Yeah, that would be great. Do you want to sync it up for me?
Yeah, I'll get right on that, David.
That does sound cool. And daunting. I imagine if I end up doing this live at some point, it'll involve some of that for sure.
You just got me all lathered up for it on the Bandcamp. There's that little clip, and it works so well. I was like, do the whole album.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I have to give credit to somebody who I don't even know who they are, but I did. I was also inspired by someone who did. You can find it on YouTube somewhere. You'll just have to search for Star Wars Sgt. Pepper, and basically they did new lyrics to all of the Sgt. Pepper album and set it to A New Hope. And so the first song, instead of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, it's Princess Leia's Stolen Death Star Plans. and it plays the movie and it has the lyrics under it. The whole thing's great. I don't know who did it, but I recommend checking that out. But I would probably do something like that as well.
I love it.
Yeah. It's just so much easier to write, and you just feel like this weight is off you. Like there's so many shows that I've done where I'm singing like really intense stuff, but with cryptic lyrics that no one understands. And it's sometimes the vibe of me playing that for a club. It's like you're having your own therapy session and no one in a different language and no one knows what you're talking about. And lots of intense energy and stuff. And so I was just really happy to have something that everyone could go, yeah, fat guy in a little coat.
Something you said just set off a chain, like one ray of sun that breaks through the rain. We might burn up, or we could melt down, but I gotta think it's turning around. You found a way, just like your old man.
I'm hoping you can help us, Dave, because the band that you're at least locally famous for, the Privates,
yep, that's right,
is in interesting territory in that when you Google or when you search the Privates, there's a really fantastic Japanese band called the Privates that, interestingly enough, have just a little bit of overlap in sound. I think you're adjacent enough that to the casual ear, you might go, I don't know which one this is.
Yeah.
Help us keep the Privates separate.
I think we're responsible for them now on their pages. It all says the Privates International Band. I think we made them do that. I feel bad because I think they started in the 80s. So, they really have domain over it. But we're talking 2003, even when we were searching on Yahoo or Ask Jeeves or whatever to see if that was a band name or not. There wasn't enough reach to really know. So only in later years do you realize, oh, everyone had a band called this or that. But yeah, it is funny that we're kind of in a similar vein. We're not, we are distantly related, and so far we're getting along great. We end up on each other's Spotify's sometimes, trying to straighten that out. But
So the Japanese, the Privates have a great song title called Midnight Sniper, and it's you look through your catalog and you're like, oh, they use kind of funny song titles. Like it's so easy to get the two confused. So help us out. Louder than lightning.
That's us.
That's you. Okay. Motion.
That's also us.
Okay. 2 for 2 so far. In 2004, there is a self-titled The Privates.
That's also us.
Okay, 3 for 3 so far. I'm
doing
well.
It's really easy so far.
Yeah. How about Barricades?
Also us. I don't think these guys put out any songs. I think it's just us. They don't even exist.
Wow.
Midnight Sniper.
In that era, Midnight Sniper's a great song, man.
Yeah.
In that 2004 moment, I was in radio at that time. It sounds like you have, some press connections working for the Tennessee, and in some moments in rock and roll, there's just a thing. There's a vibe.
Yeah.
Some bands have it. I felt like the Privates, when you guys were coming up, you had it. You were capturing that sound in the moment that was really energetic and vibrant.
my bearings by the barricades, but we're on our way. We're on our way. I roll back over so someone might see a year's reflection bouncing back off me, but I'm on my knees. I'm on my knees. 'Cause I still shake if there's a hand placed on my shoulder.
Was there a sense that, because I wasn't there, I don't know.
Yeah.
Was there ever a sense that like you were really on the precipice of going supernova with that band?
I guess not totally, because well, maybe you know, you put yourself back in. I was 20 years old, and you don't know. Your big break might be right around the corner, but also nothing like that had happened to me before, so I wasn't quite sure. It was a super exciting time. I mean, just national. I mean, like if we captured that vibe, that's great, because I mean, I was very inspired at the time. That time, 2001, 2002, the quote unquote rock is back, you know, thing that they had, which is so funny in retrospect, because rock would have been gone for what, 3 years, and then it's finally back, and now it's been gone for God knows how long. But yeah, the Strokes, White Stripes, all that stuff up through 2002, 2003, and then even pop was exciting. We had Hey Ya, and you had Since You've Been Gone. There was just a level of excitement, or you'd hear about a new band with a the name. It was about 50-50 that you were going to love them, actually. Or, you know, it was a really exciting time. And that first record and that band is so much informed by the Strokes, and like just getting back to basics and just sort of a rock thing. So it was a super exciting time. It was my first band after high school. It was like my first college band. So that was exciting too. And we had a bunch of awesome bands in the scene at the time, including the Features, which we shared a drummer with. And I think also having Rollum, the Features drummer, as our drummer, made it hazier as far as how far this band would go, because he had a full-time gig with a band that was signed at the time. But yeah, super exciting time. Crazy. And then within a year or two, like, then you had like a lot of people getting signed, like Bureau and Pet came out of nowhere, and Kings of Leon, of course. And but yeah, super exciting time.
What brought about We Are Really Rocking Now, Haven't We? Other than a desperate need for a lesson in grammar.
A bunch of those song titles came out of just stories that people would have and talk about at parties. We also had a bunch of joke titles for a post-rock band I was in at the time called Character. And that was just a story one of the guys would tell. I don't know if it was secondhand or thirdhand, or maybe something somebody saw on TV. I think it happened in real life, but basically it was a foreign guy on stage between songs that was basically saying, yeah, we are having a good time. We are really rocking now, haven't we? And someone repeated that, and I thought it was the greatest thing I'd ever heard in my life. And it just made perfect sense as the opening track in a mission statement, and then became the name of our retrospective vinyl we put out last year.
I wanna go down to the deep end and get back what's gone round, and you've been keeping down the aisles between the rows. Oh, yeah, I wanna go down. I needed someone in that shade of blue. You had your cat gun taken away from you. So why must you keep the lights so low?
when you're doing a retrospective vinyl collection like that, walk us through, song selection and process. What's that look like where you are today in your career?
Oh, for sure. It was pretty simple. I mean, that album was really aimed at people who remembered us from back when we would play the club. So a bunch of it was just the songs that went off well live. Both because it's like, it works if it's, obviously if it's going off well live, it's probably a pretty decent song, but also it's just the songs people would remember. So the songs that were fixtures of our set became most of the track list. But then there were a couple where it was like, no, this is a really cool recording. It was a song we couldn't really pull off live. We should put that on there. So a mix of those. But, it was mostly a vehicle for 2 new songs. That was mainly what I wanted to do. And I was kind of just taking the old greatest hits model where you have 1 or 2 new songs that bookend the greatest hits collection, and then you're out of your contract with your label. And I believe we're free of our contract with YK Records, unless I beg them to put out another record. But I think they'll leave us alone. But that was it. Nothing crazy, and the guys didn't have any ideas, so I just handled it.
I would love to count this episode as we're going to do 2 birds and 1 stone. I'm going to count this as a Pink Spiders episode too. While we've got
oh boy, here we go. Yeah.
Let's talk about the Pink Spiders and your involvement.
Mm-hmm. Well, just as I was mentioning that exciting time and bands getting signed, around the same time as Be Your Own Pet, Kings of Leon, I think people were a little more aware of Nashville. And the Pink Spiders, I've known Matt, the front man, since we were playing all ages clubs in Nashville in the 90s or year 2000. But he'd been touring really hard with his trio and gone out to LA and met a manager, and they said, we're going to set up a showcase for you. And they actually paid to fly them out to do a showcase at the Viper Room. They were a trio. Matt wanted a second guitarist to fill out the sound, so he asked if I would come play that show. It was the first show I'd ever played with them, just to help out. We played the Viper Room. Major label bidding war ensues, and I say, hey guys, can I stick around for a little bit? And I also hadn't been to LA in my adult life in the middle of winter, and I was like, okay, this is also very nice. And then a week prior I'd been washing dishes, but anyway, so that happens, and then they get signed to Geffen. They tell them they want Rick Ocasek to produce. They call up Rick Ocasek. He says, okay, I'll meet you guys at Electric Lady. And then within 2 months, we're all out in New York recording a major label album with Rick Ocasek. It's actually Ocasek, but I'm going to say it the way most folks know it. But and that was an amazing experience. We made that record. It didn't come out for another year. Surprise, surprise. We did some tours. We opened for Yellow Card and Good Charlotte, and then we did the Warp Tour and some other things I'm sure I'm forgetting. Played Dodger Stadium, which was really funny. They did a K-Rock or some sort of promotional thing. After the game, we're going to put a stage out on the outfield, and everyone can stay. Everyone can come on the field and watch the show. So I think most people just were like, cool, we get to go on the field. So, but I have a photo of us literally playing Dodger Stadium with a bunch of people there. So anyway, the record didn't do amazing, and then they were dropped. But I had left by then because during that time I was making a Privates record and did about 2 years with them, and then said, this was cool. I'm going to do something else now. But it was amazing, and half the stories I tell at parties to this day are from that year and a half time with Pink Spiders. It was crazy.
Things are getting better. She said no more sex unless we go steady. I said I like the night. Wake me when you change your mind. 'Cause I don't wanna see your bedroom, sugar. I'm not looking for love. And she says I don't wanna be the girl in your
you're still homies, right? Like you're credited as guest spots on Mutations and freaking out, and you're still
right.
dipping in with the Pink Spiders.
Me and Matt are still very close, and every time they make a record, he has always been so kind as to say, "Hey, play keyboards on a couple of these things." So yeah, I've continued to do that, and we'll help out from time to time if they need it. Last thing I did with them though was we did a reunion, 10-year reunion, which was super fun. But yeah, it's great. They're still doing stuff. The bass player of that band got a #1 song with Lainey Wilson. Now he's a hit country songwriter. So yeah, things are going on. But yeah, it was super fun, and I'm so grateful to have that time. I think it changed a lot. I imagine I would have had a much bigger chip on my shoulder about really wanting to make it, if I hadn't had that whole experience. It was kind of like fantasy camp. You just sort of, lots of very cool experiences. You'd be like, okay, so this is how it works. Cool. So it was wonderful.
It sounds like it. It sounds like a overwhelmingly positive experience.
Yeah, for sure. I do think back now, and I'm like, oh, I could not live like that now. Because even with the occasionally that was a bus and stuff. There were also van dates, and we'd have 4 guys in the band and 3 guys, like a tour manager, crew people, merch or whatever. So it'd be 7 people in one motel room. With three, so two people per bed, and then 3 air mattresses on the floor, and then just try not to step on anybody on the way to the bathroom. So eventually, yeah, I couldn't have done that forever, but I'm amazed I did. It was fun.
Wow.
There's a period in every band's life where you got to decide: how much do I like PB&J?
That's it, exactly.
Oh man! So, you mentioned big country hits as a writer. I'm sure that's a thing that happens to several friends of yours in and around Nashville. As a writer for the Tennessean, you've probably seen some pretty crazy things in and around the music industry. What would some of the highlights be from your time as a journalist?
A few people that I got to meet. I got to meet Ringo. That was amazing.
Oh wow!
It was. It was just dumb luck, really. Every year on his birthday, he finds a Hard Rock cafe near him and does his peace and love moment, where basically it's the clock strikes noon, and he says peace and love, and we all say peace and love, and it's a great old time. But anyway, his tour happened to be coming through Nashville on his birthday, so what would have been just going to see Ringo at the Ryman that night turned into he has a whole press event, and you can interview him. So I got 3 minutes with him. Never been more nervous in my life. I hope I never am again. That was amazing. But yeah, meeting people like that. I met Little Richard at the Hilton downtown in Nashville and interviewed him. He actually lived at that hotel for a long time. And people would see him in Nashville. You would spot him in Nashville, but only at drive-thrus. He would go to like a Checkers drive-thru or the Wendy's drive-thru. He wouldn't even be driving usually, but he would roll down the window and make sure everyone saw him, and he would wave to everybody and that sort of thing. But other people, like, I covered Taylor Swift on her way up and met her and had a few interviews with her, which will be the thing I talk about for the rest of my life, I'm sure. But yeah, and going to every Bonnaroo from 2007 to 2022.
Wow.
There were a couple canceled for the pandemic, but that's like somewhere around 15. And I did the math and realized, Bonnaroo's 4 days every year. So eventually I have spent more than a month of my life at Bonnaroo, basically.
Now,
I realized.
Help me understand Bonnaroo. That sounds like hell on earth to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the middle of Tennessee, in the middle of summer and camping. And what was it like for you? Tell us about that.
Well, it was still fun because there was tons to cover.
Okay.
Actually, very much. It is grueling, but I always loved like just being dropped in an environment where it's just going to be music around the clock, nonstop. You're not going to go back to real life for a few days, even though I was like in the press tent and writing things on my laptop. You're just still in that environment. That was super fun. I think what I've always said is I think people being in captivity at Bonnaroo and having to deal with, the elements and it's hot and all that stuff, all the stuff that makes it hell, also makes it gets rid of everybody else who's a casual fan or not really wanting to be there. So everyone that goes, really wants to be there. And I think a little bit of Stockholm syndrome also happens where it's like, well, we're stuck here for 4 days. We might as well have a great time. And in the process, through that stuff, they're an incredible audience. They're really into it. They're really engaged. They are there to do that. And I think that vibe is really special. And you see the performers pick up on it all the time. It's so different from a Lollapalooza or Coachella where people are just coming in for the day. No one's camping. Everyone there is living there. And when the show's over, they have like a 1 or 2 mile walk back to their tent. Like, you just have to get in this mindset of, we're going to have the time of our lives because we don't have any other choice. And it sounds messed up, but I swear it's it makes for a really cool vibe. So I didn't go to Bonnaroo last year. I'm hoping I can go out there for fun for a day this time. I really do love it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
A lot of magic mushrooms, I would think.
I believe so. Not so much in the press tent.
No.
From what I gather, although one of the big stories that the Tennessee one to run every year would be like the drug busts and stuff. I didn't do that stuff. I just did the music. So
Okay.
Where is Gonzo journalism gone, Keith?
I don't know. I read some of it in political avenues now. But
yeah.
It's interesting.
It would have been fun to go full Gonzo there, but I'm not sure my bosses would have appreciated it, so it didn't happen.
How about I think of you and almost all of your music as rock and roll.
Hell yeah!
How does a rock and roll guy become a curator and writer for the Country Music Hall of Fame?
Took the question right out of my mouth.
There you go. Well, it turns out there's been quite a pipeline over the years of a former Tennessean and the other newspaper called The Banner. A whole bunch of people that are writers over there were former music journalists. So it wasn't crazy, and they actually reached out, and well, it also helps that you write about them all the time, right? And you get to know these people, and they get a sense of your writing and the kind of guy you are and stuff. So that certainly helps too. But yeah, it just materialized one day, and I was very grateful for it. It was time for a change. I really had to be dragged out of the job at the paper because it was so fun, but it was time to move on. And it's been super rewarding at the Country Music Hall of Fame Museum too, putting together exhibits and really working with artists. Not that journalists are totally antagonistic, but there is sometimes this wall of just like, hey man, you're not going to tell me that I can't write about whatever, like I'll ask the questions I want to, yada, yada. And finally being on the side of just like, okay, we're working together on this. What kind of story do you want to tell? It's nice to do that for a change. We had a big exhibit on Luke Combs.
Okay.
Recently that will be up until July. I helped put that together. I also host programs. I interviewed this legendary pedal steel guitarist, JD Manus. Recently he kind of helped invent country rock by playing with the Byrds back in the day when they went country in the late 60s. So I get to do lots of really fun stuff like that, and stuff for the website, educational programs. It's a good range of stuff. And yeah, but you kind of have to remind people that there is quite a bit of writing at the museum. There's stuff on the walls, there's stuff on our website, but it's not all just writing text. It's also like shaping the story that an exhibit will tell, that sort of thing. It's been great. I've been there for about 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like a really neato job.
It is fun. Being downtown every single day is a challenge, but especially in the summer, it gets pretty crazy. You can always tell when it's a Friday there, and when you're leaving, it's like, okay, yeah, we got to get out of here because there are literally like a dozen party buses going up and down. You'll hear them outside your window. It sounds like there's a roller coaster or something. You're working at Six Flags, but everything else about it's awesome. One of my windows is like a piano key. The whole building's shaped like a piano, and then there's a tower that represents like has like a 33 and a 45 RP. It's like this crazy building. That's beautiful. So it's fun to work there.
And you've been doing that for 2 years?
2 years. I left the Tennessean in 23, and now I'm there.
Good for you.
Yeah, man.
So you've done a retrospective of the Privates. You've said no to Black Sheep.
That's right. I didn't like Black Sheep very much.
No.
Oh, no.
Yeah, none of his other films have the heart that Tommy Boy does. They just don't. You know, it's a shame that he didn't get to do anything else. But you know,
Yeah.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
So what is next for you musically, Dave?
it's a very good question. A big part of it lies in the fact that we're moving and heading to San Luis Obispo, California.
Whoa, that's a serious move.
Sure is.
Oh my God. I
Yeah,
thought you were
yeah.
just wow, okay. Wow, that's a big
Oh,
move.
I got to move over to Mount Juliet, so I really got to get my stuff in order before I think about music again. No, we're going across the country, doing something totally new. So yeah, my time at the museum has been great. I am departing. They know that it's not an exclusive or anything. But anyway, yeah, we're going to the West Coast, and I think it's going to be a new chapter of all of it. But I'm excited to see what it is. I'm not sure I'm going to start a whole new band out there or anything, but just with the nature of the internet today, and there's all sorts of stuff you can do remotely, and I hope to be more productive in a new place. I have noticed they have a pretty thriving punk scene out there, which maybe that'll be my new life. Be a hardcore front man or something.
There you go.
But I'm sure that once I'm out there and I'm removed from Nashville and all my musician friends, I will ironically then get the drive to make something again. And I'll say, why didn't I do this when I had a studio that I could call my friend and use down the street? All that stuff. Yeah. Once it's taken away from me, I feel like then I'm going to be like, oh, I really miss it, and I'm going to make some music and stuff. But that might be what I need. The weather's nice.
To go back to Sandusky, that was all you, right? As far as you wrote it all, you performed it all.
Mostly, I have to
a couple of guests.
I have to give a ton of credit to the producer Jordan Lenning, who really, really produced it in a way that no one else I'd ever worked with had. And I've always been open to ideas, but a lot of times, other times, work with people with studios, much more just recording and engineering and stuff. But this was much more of a collaboration, and he came up with parts and said, "No, you want to tag that chorus 3 times, or you want to repeat at the end here, or do this or that." Like he came up with so many great parts. A lot of the harmonies, like anytime you hear like lush, like 3-part harmonies on there, that's him.
Wow.
He did incredible stuff on it. I can't thank him enough. So yeah, he was a huge part of it. I had listened to one of the records he'd made, and then also another record he produced that both had blown me away. If you guys want to look him up, or anyone listening, he had an album called Jordan Sings, which is phenomenal. And he produced an album by a local artist named Jasmine Cassett called Quiet Machine in 2014. That is just a stunning pop record. And if you like the production on Sandusky, you'll hear a lot of familiar stuff. So that was a huge inspiration too. I imagine if I hadn't found him or heard that record, I probably wouldn't have gotten around to Sandusky when I did. It was also just as much like, I want to work with this guy. I think we can do something together. But anyway, so yeah, he played a bunch of stuff, and then Sam Smith, who is a good friend and bandmate, played drums. He previously toured with Ben Folds for a while, and he's also an amazing graphic designer. But those were the 2 people, and then also some strings as well. But that was basically a team of. We actually did a photo at the end. It was a team of 5 people. Basically, it was like the whole crew, But yeah. Otherwise, I demoed and wrote everything. No one else wrote anything, but I couldn't have done it without, especially Jordan.
Amazing.
Truly.
Well, I'm a big fan of the Privates. I'm a big Pink Spiders guy, but none of that holds a candle to that Sandusky record, man. I love it. Every time I play it, it is a treat to chat with you. We definitely appreciate the time, and man, best of luck with the move. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much
for everything.
I really appreciate it, guys, and I hope that this conversation really kicks my ass in gear, and I finally put something together again. It means so much for you to reach out 7 years after this album came out and want to talk about it. It really does mean the world. I appreciate it, and hopefully I'll have something new to talk about in the relative near future.
Yeah, for sure. We hope you do too.
Awesome.
Yeah. Dave, thanks again, buddy. We'll see you on the internet.
All right, sounds good, Jeff. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Keith. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Take care, Dave. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you to Dave for taking the time to talk to us.
This episode of Centre Stage was written and produced by Keith R. Higgins and Jeff Calhoun. The show was recorded at Thunderlove Studio, where it was engineered by
Daphne Morris,
with help from
Penetration,
edited by
Vic Titball,
with help from
Clem Fandango.
Our theme song is Cynical by Jaguar on Mars. You can stream Jaguar on Mars wherever you stream your favorite music. The songs you heard during this podcast were Don't Let It Get You Down, Sandusky, My Old Man, and Turning Around, all taken from Dave Paulson's album Sandusky. You also heard Barricades and We Are Really Rocking Now, Haven't We, by the Privates. Lastly, you heard Going Steady by the Pink Spiders. Please remember to support independent music.
original music by Mike Pellegrino.
If you like what you've heard, please remember to subscribe and leave us a rating. It helps other people find the podcast. Thanks for listening.
Grazie.
Bailey Leaf,
Rob Janicki, Mike Pellegrino, Farina Bella,
S.W. Loudon,
Michael Janicki, Peyton Janicki.
This show's executive producer is Lulu McGillicuddy and is in the loving memory of
Lucas Thunderlove.
And now, until we meet again next time, I remain as always obediently yours.
Abandoned Albums is a production of Paw Print Media.